Hello, everyone. Welcome to topic 2 for week 3. Our topic today is audience as storytellers. We're going to be looking at ways we can inculcate the next generation and share our storytelling experiences, and then have children sharing storytelling experiences with their peers or with younger kids. So hopefully we're going to look at some neat ways to push storytelling down or share it further out or create a little ripple effect for storytelling among children and have it spread in schools and in daycares. Anyway, hopefully you'll get some good ideas from this. All right, we definitely want to get the audience involved. We want to have reading clubs. I do have a library club at my school. We read aloud. We definitely share books. We also play games, but it's really low key. I have not done a high pressure or highly organized reading club. I think having some sort of reading club where the kids read to each other is a really neat idea. There's also the opportunity for peer-to-peer reading, having kids read stories to each other. I've found that very effective when I've done a storytelling unit at my high school. To have kids who are not comfortable reading read children's stories to each other is a great way to get them more comfortable reading aloud, particularly when they're not a fluent oral reader. Having teens read to children, that's also part of the unit that I've done, is that I've had low-level readers at my high school practice reading children's books and then go across the street to read to smaller children. Though I will say that at my son's elementary school, they both went to Brennan Elementary in Columbia, South Carolina. They had reading buddies. So a 5th grade student was paired with a kindergarten student every year. And that 5th grader would come down to the kindergarten room and read to his reading buddy. Though my older son was such an advanced reader that he was probably reading at the same level as his 5th grade reading buddy, which was intimidating for the 5th grade reading buddy. And then his kindergartner just loved him because Gus read him some really good stories. But I think that teen to child reading or older child to younger child reading is really effective. That's also part of the chapter this week. I hope you spent some time reading that chapter. It's a great chapter on instituting storytelling in a school. And of course, you want those generations reading from one age level to the next, or we want to share this. It's like the old Fabergé Organics commercial. That's probably before your time. But a woman washes her hair with Fabergé Organics and then tells 2 friends, and they tell 2 friends. Anyway, I've put the link on there if you feel the need to go look up Fabergé Organics commercial, which is completely unrelated to storytelling. But I like the idea of proselytizing and sharing the storytelling bug and having that spread. I love the outline of how different schools implement storytelling. When I was in elementary school, I was part of an oral interpretation group, and we did competitions. That is one of my fondest memories of elementary school, is doing that oral interpretation where we actually did just storytelling. We memorized a story and shared it with large audiences. Many schools have speech teams. Some schools have academic decathlon, which has a speech unit or part of decathlon. You have other competitions. And one of my favorite memories is that oral interpretation group. So sharing that, I think sharing the storytelling or the performance aspect of storytelling with kids is a great idea. The book also talks about different storytelling experiences, or there's a large discussion of the 4th grade storytelling unit where the 4th graders learn to tell stories and then tell stories to a younger grade. I think that is just a fantastic program. And I hope that some of you who are teaching in elementary schools consider implementing that. It's also one of those things where I feel like you could have a storytelling group at a public library also. You could recruit some kids and then have a storytelling group. I was a little on the dorky side when I was in middle school, and I had a group of kids. We made a storytelling group at our local library in middle school and told stories to younger kids. And that was also, it's one of my fond memories of doing this sort of oral interpretation group or storytelling group or dramatics group. We did some little plays for kids too in our local library. So that's something that I think is doable. So how do you lead your audience to change from audience to storyteller? First, you have to introduce students or patrons to a story. When I have done a storytelling unit with high school students, I have introduced them to a bad storytelling, and then I've done a good storytelling. I have often used No David. I hope you guys know that book. It's a very simple book with very few words, lots of pictures of a little boy who does bad stuff all the time. And in the bad storytelling of No David, I fidget, I rock back and forth on my feet, I have my hand in my pocket, I chew gum, I have a hat pulled down over my face, I use no expression, and I don't show the pictures. And the kids get irritated. Even high school students who know the book get irritated by the bad storytelling. Then I show the kids how to do a good storytelling and do a very emotive, dramatic reading of No David. That helps them to see what's good and what's bad, and I ask them, now tell me which one was the good storytelling, which one was the bad, what made one good, what made one bad. And that way they can see the technique or skills of storytelling, and then you want them to really see their story. So No David is obviously very short and quick. Then we start looking at different stories. We go to the library, and in my high school library, I have a small collection, probably about 200 children's books. Most of them are award winners or some of my favorites. And then we spend some time reading good stories and having them talk about them. And working with students that do not read well, children's literature is a great way to get them out of their shells, and then they can concentrate on what makes a good voice and expression in a children's story. Also, my demonstrations of good and bad readings, I think, help the kids see that. I have them work in pairs. The young tellers present a short story, something easy. They work in pairs with each other to practice. Have young tellers present a story about something tangible that they can see or something that they have done. I have not done this. I think this is a fantastic idea. This next one on our list. Have young tellers present a joke. I am definitely going to incorporate that in my next storytelling unit that I do at the high school level. I think having them tell a joke, of course, with caveat that it has to be clean, but I think that's a great idea as an icebreaker or getting kids more comfortable standing in front of a group. Have young tellers present in small peer groups. That's what my son's elementary school did with the reading buddies. That's what I do with pair work with my high school storytelling unit. And then you want young tellers to be telling their own stories. I think that's a great idea, and I haven't taken that step with my storytelling unit either, and I believe I'm going to try to incorporate that also. I've included this slide because I do want you thinking about this is doable at multiple age ranges. Obviously, you probably don't want kindergartners telling stories, but I think you can have, as our book stated, fourth graders telling stories. And in my son's school, it was fifth graders with kindergartners, but I don't think you need the age range to be that big. As it's explained in our textbook, the fourth graders told stories to second graders. I think that's a really neat technique, confidence builder, bridge builder. And then, of course, having teenagers trained as storytellers, I think is fantastic. It is such a ego boost for teenagers, especially teenagers who have not been super successful in school, to share stories with younger kids, especially younger kids who are not judgmental, meaning that like toddlers or preschoolers are an easy audience and a good confidence builder. So I think you can teach storytelling to a big age range. So some activities you can do with kids to promote storytelling or get them ready to tell stories is pass the ball, where you can use a beach ball or you can use a ball of yarn that you pass around, which has the sort of dual meaning of passing the ball of yarn but also spinning a yarn. Isn't that cute? And then have the kids each add a sentence to the story as they pass the ball around. You can do beginning, middle, and end, which is low-level storyboarding, essentially. making sure particularly younger students can identify the parts of the story, fill in a graphic organizer to prepare to tell a story. That's a great way of helping kids organize their thoughts and understand the story parts. You can have them do fractured fairy tales. That's a great way of making sure they understand sort of the background of fairy tales and then being able to riff off of those. It's very funny. Oh my God, my dog. I'm going to stop this for a second. Another technique you can use to teach storytelling or get kids more comfortable storytelling is the good, bad story technique, where you offer a good thing that happens to a character and then the next person has to say, but then this bad thing happens. And that way you pass the story around and get more comfortable storytelling, but you also have good things and bad things happening. And so that's entertaining because some of the good and bad things can be utterly ridiculous. You can, of course, offer writing prompts. There once was a boy who loved pizza, or whatever. And there are books of writing prompts that you can use. And I'm sure you can Google writing prompts online to find more. A classic way of teaching storytelling is to have kids storyboard. Even if they can only do stick figures, storyboards are really helpful. In a previous class that I took, the library programming class with Dr. Santos Green, I had to storyboard and have a poster board behind the camera when I was doing my puppeteering. I've told you I'm not very good at puppeteering. Anyway, having the storyboard behind the camera was helpful to me so that I could remember the sequence of the story. And I was just telling, if you give a pig a pancake, but I couldn't remember what the pig did, the sequence of the pig's actions as he put up wallpaper and ate pancakes and all that stuff and wrote letters and danced. And so I needed to know very simply what the pig was going to do at each step of the story. And so having kids storyboard, whether it's a story they already know or a story that an original story they're creating, a storyboard is a really great way of having kids create a way to remember things, the sequencing of a story. It's very helpful. I hope this talk has given you some good ideas on how to train new storytellers or have some sort of programming in your library, whether it's public or a school library, to get kids telling stories also. It's a great way of promoting literacy, teaching the arc of a story. It's a great way to do outreach in a neighborhood if you're in a public or school library. I've really had great success working with the daycare across the street from my high school. They've always been most welcoming, even to students who look a little rough around the edges. So I think that's a great thing you can do in public or in school libraries. So keep thinking about that. There are all sorts of great activities to train kids. And let me know if you need some more information or you're struggling with anything, and I'll be in touch. And I'm looking forward to reading your blogs and looking at your next storytelling projects.